In this video, we're going to go back and look at the Squire Bullet Strat. This time I'm going to play it a little bit, let you listen to it. And remember from the last video, this guitar I picked up for $45 at a pawn shop. So it really is a dirt cheap guitar. So in the last video, I talked about some of the things you want to look at when you're trying to get an inexpensive guitar. Don't expect the world when you're looking at these really low budget guitars. These are introductory guitars, but if you're just starting out, playing acoustic, and you want to think about fooling around with an electric guitar, this is a good starting point. Obviously, if you have the budget, there are Fender versions of this that are made in Mexico that are more expensive, somewhere in the $500 to $700 range new. But those are actually pretty good guitars. And like I said in the last video, some of the areas that they cut costs are in the types of woods that are used, the types of hardware that's used, and the types of electronics. When you're checking one of these out, especially if it's used, you'll definitely want to hook it up. And some of the things you want to look for are, do you hear static when you adjust any of the controls? When you adjust the pickup selector here, does it make noise when you switch from one pickup to the next? Now this guitar I've gone through and I actually had this completely apart and cleaned it, and obviously that helps if you know how to do some of those things. But if you have a good local guitar store, a lot of times they'll do that as part of a setup. You just have to ask them. Of course that does add to the cost of the guitar, but that's why it's always good to learn how to do some of these things, because it can save you money down the road. So let's start by taking a listen to this guitar. I'm going to start off, I'm only doing clean sounds because to me that's where you can really get an idea of what the guitar sounds like. You can always add tons of effects to kind of mask some of the limitations of the sound of the guitar, but really when it's totally clean, every little imperfection will show up. So let's start off with the neck pickup here. So I've got this set up going through a Boss Katana with just a clean sound, a little bit of reverb, and then it's mic'd. I also have a room mic that's picking up some of the ambient sound, and then that's going into my interface and into the computer that's recording all of the sound you're hearing. This is with the tone rolled back. Next position. Middle position. Bridge position. So overall, not a bad sound. So some of the drawbacks that you're going to see with these types of guitars. First of all, the vibrato. The vibrato allows you to change the pitch of the guitar. But oftentimes on these budget guitars, they're not using as high of a quality of components, and so tuning can be a problem when you use this. If you go up here and try to do like Van Halen and do these massive dive bombs, it's going to start to knock it out of tune, as I just did. So this is often better for subtle stuff, or take it off and put it in the case and not use it at all. There's something to be said for guitars that don't have this vibrato system, especially in the lower cost models, because of the problems with tuning. And then of course you have to have, a good ear or a tuner to find where the problems are to get the guitar back in tune. As I said before, the strings are kind of high on this one as I've set it up more for slide. When we're playing slide guitar, which I'll get into in another video, we want that extra height so that the slide doesn't actually rub up against the frets. And there's a few other things as well. But that makes it harder to play. So if you get a guitar and it does have the high action like this, it can be kind of hard to play. Now I can work around it, but if I was going to use this and play standard without a slide, I would have the strings actually lower. So a few tips on what to look for to tell if you've got too much bow or curve in the neck. Obviously you can look at it down either this way or this way. People have different preferences, but you're looking to see that it's relatively flat. There should be a little bit of what's called relief, meaning there's a little bit of curve that kind of compensates for the strings pulling in this direction. An easy way to check that is to fret at the first fret or use a capo so that you're pushing down the strings at the first fret, and then take your other hand and at the same time push down the guitar string at the very top fret down here. And you should see a little bit of a gap at the 12th fret. That's where the double dots are. That's slightly off of the fret. And that will show you how much curve is actually in the neck of the guitar. If it's too much and you're getting buzzes and things as you play, that's a bad sign. But if it seems to be just about right and when you play you don't get buzzes in the notes, that's kind of what you're looking for in a decent setup. As far as how high that is and how much relief, a lot of times that's personal preference for the player themselves, or there may be manufacturing specs of what the guitar is supposed to be set at. There's several good books out there that tell you exactly how these guitars come from the factory, depending on which brand it is, which types and models. Now that you've heard some of the clean tones, let's listen to some of the dirt tones that you can get out of this guitar. Now you hear a little bit more noise when it's distorted, and of course the quality of the pickups makes a difference with that, also with the overall sound in general. On this particular guitar, the single coil pickups like this tend to have a thinner sound. So here we have the neck pickup with a distorted tone. So just like with using the vibrato bar, oftentimes these less expensive guitars, when you start really banging on them, bending notes, things like that, tuning can become an issue. In other videos I'll talk about ways to kind of help minimize that when you're playing the guitar. Different things that you can do with the nut, the way the guitar is set up, that will help minimize those tuning instabilities. So here's what it sounds like in the neck and middle position. The neck and middle position, if you've ever listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan, that's what a lot of his stuff is, although he doesn't use as much distortion as people usually think he actually has. So to me, you can tell a difference between these pickups and the pickups in a higher end guitar. There are some differences, but again, for the beginner, for somebody who's just getting into this or looking to expand their collection and to be able to get different sounds and don't want to put a lot of money into it, this was $45. Now we'll listen to the bridge pickup. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and give it a like. If you want to be notified the next time I post content, click the bell icon up in the top corner and you'll get an alert the next time I post anything.